Hello from Safonovo. This is a podcast Pigeon of Peace where we do discuss awesome skills of troubleshooters. Watch, listen, and check the description below for the details. Let's talk about conclusion and let's start with the definition.
When I was studying logic, I found that there is several ways how to produce result, and one of them is conclusion. And I was so fascinated by this. Fascinated?
Fascinated.
Fascinated by this. For example, let's talk about something we do not know exactly, but we could imagine. We land to the moon, or let's moon to the moon, okay? And we will think how to walk, how to build houses and something like this. And we haven't been to the moon, but we could, in imagination, create so-called mind experiment, and we could come to conclusion how to deal with some problems, how to avoid heat, how to make maybe kind of heaters to warm the place and so on. Or for example, we will go to some African country where you haven't been, and we will think, okay, what to take with you? And with help of conclusion, we will come to something. For example, maybe you will laugh, but when I have been to the river called Black Niger, we were using rafts. It's plastic made or rubber made boats, and we were making rafting on this river. We were used to drink gin because there is a very warm and humid weather, and there are a lot of mosquitoes. And if you will get injured or beaten, your skin would create, I know how to say, some kind of welbery.
Or like irritation.
And then you should use something like vodka or eau de cologne or much better gin to cover it up. And when I saw experienced people, they were taking gin not in the bottle as but they were using, I don't know how to say, for blood replacement cameras. Вот такие мешки, которые капельницы цепляют, где вот кровь. Blood replacement cameras, it's okay?
Blood containers or blood plastic containers.
And it's take me to understanding how they wise. So glass wouldn't broke. The weight is quite light. And then after several years, I have been to Everest. It's also a mountain, and I also put some liquids in those blood containers, and a lot of people were astonished. Oh, okay, you are so clever. And I was saying, I have been in Africa, and there is a reason why we make this. And now I make a conclusion. If I will go somewhere up, it is heavy to carry with myself so many stuff. So I also would use those blood containers. So conclusion, you could transfer knowledge from one area to another to make like familiarity or similitude.
Well, it's funny that the conclusion could make different links. And the moment we decide to make a conclusion, probably there could be a few more extra steps or extra miles that we can run to maybe get even more deeper conclusion, or maybe get like some pivotal information. Now we'll come up with maybe a silly example, but when I was reading about history of coffee, the legend is the shepherd guy, he noticed that when the goats would be eating this like a coffee beans, they become more energized. But I do believe the guy was not only trying to eat the berries, but like somehow he got the conclusion, or someone else got the conclusion, that you need to peel the berry, get the seed, then like burn it, then you will get the coffee so that you would be more energized. So when we speak about conclusion, what is the definition of stop and like starting to making the assumptions?
When you have some dots on the paper, maybe you wouldn't see the picture. But if someone will connect those dots, suddenly you will find that there is a drawing. Even some child games in some magazines or books are made in this way. There is a dots with numbers, and if you will connect them in the proper way, you will see the picture, for example, like a Disney princess or maybe some other well-known toys. The same would be in your life. If you thinking about the future, there would be like a smoke of the war, or war smoke, or smoke of the war.
Smoke of the war.
Smoke of the war. So you see nothing, but you could make an assumption what is inside. You know, there is a joke. What you afraid more, dentist or darkness? I afraid darkness more. Why? Because no one knows how many dentists are there.
Well, yeah, sometimes conclusion actually could lead to, like additional thoughts and stuff. And the moment, we start to think about that happened, or, like we see the results of experiments, or we see the results in the paper of whatever is going on. So sometimes we might be actually going into the wrong way, because it's also might be depending on view. It's also might be depending on our experiences. So how to make sure, how to have this like a mental compass, or maybe have a set of skills that would allow us to actually say like whether this conclusion based on the data or the evidence we have is more or less justified, or maybe justified with a certain probability.
You know, I have been to desert.
Desert.
I have been to desert close to once lake, and suddenly I saw several catfishes which are trying to get out and to, I know how to say, to follow by the sand with their fins. And I asked a guide, what is the fishes? And he told, this is a so-called кольчужные сомы, or I don't know how to say,
Ar
bronilla catfish,
ar
armadillo.
armored catfish,
Armored
probably.
catfish prop. And I asked him how it works. And he told me they understand the level of the water is quite low, so they are trying to go to another puddle pond, to another pond,
Pond.
another pond in the desert. And I asked him, okay, but if they will choose the wrong direction, and he told me, okay, they will dry and we will use them to fire the fireplace. And I was thinking, okay, so that catfishes are so brave or so dumb, but they make conclusions. For example, if I would dry at this place, maybe better to dry in a temp to go to some better place. The same would be with people. Okay, you should make to conclusion which language to learn, which institute to enter, and how to change, when to change the company, when to start your company. So you have to do a lot of conclusions, and who would be your spouse, and where to live. And some people do this under the pressure. Okay, it's time, and I will take any decision, and maybe sometimes it was the worst choice. But if you have time and you will see into the future, you will make something like this. Okay, let's assume I live in this area. Okay, let's assume that I have a kid. It's time to go to kindergarten. Yes?
In the garden, yes.
Kindergarten, okay. Then it's time to go to the school, and this time to go, for example, to big tennis or skating or I don't know, rolling or bicycle routine and so on. And then you will understand how to live. For example, when I was choosing the place to live in Moscow, there were like 200 lines which I was to combine, and everyone was so astonished. It was almost impossible, but the well chosen place lead me to the position that now I am living here for 13 years, and I have no best place to live because everything is quite comfortable, because I was thinking about these criteria. So when you go into conclusion, you also should imagine ideal end result, идеальный конечный результат.
Ideal final result.
Thank you. Ideal final result, and also criteria how to measure how is ideal is.
Well, yeah, sometimes it's good to, like have the outcome or the output, and maybe, like have a right conclusions that would lead to that. And I do remember there was like another topic that we discussed. It's called resume. So what might be a difference? Because, well, it might be either different components or different paths, or maybe they're in a completely different fields. But, like when something already happened, when distinguish resume from the conclusion?
Resume, it's like to see in the mirror, and about conclusion, it would be an ideal point. For example, there is a saying, I don't know, is it exist in English language, but in Russian, I don't like this, but it suits the situation. If you want to jump to the moon, you should aim to the sun. Is it okay to say?
Yep. Want to jump to the sun, aim for the moon.
Vice versa. If you want to jump to the moon, aim to the sun. So your result could be lower. your result could be lower. But I do not like this. If you all time would think about big, but then you will have a small result, this means that something with your, I don't know, прицел, aim,
Aim.
something with your aim. So much better not to use long distance, short distance, but more often is much better than to make everything going straight. No one could predict what will happen in, for example, 25 years. But if I will say, okay, where you want to be 1 week later, 1 month later, and so on. For example, we will talk when your son will go to the university, which profession he will choose. Step by step, we'll go by ladder of our understanding, and we will just move around, and that's smoke of the war, and we'll go like in the game. But for example, if we will jump too far, we will lost somewhere. For example, if there is complete darkness, you will close my eyes and I will go with my legs with small steps. But if I will try jump, sometime I could follow in abyss, бездна,
Abyss.
in abyss, and then everything would be end.
Well, since we touched the darkness, I think it was a nice segue because I was about to ask the darkness and like all of the dentists. Sometimes we might be in the darkness and there might not be enough of the data or maybe enough of information to get to the right conclusion. So it's, let's say we will be making decisions or like assumptions or conclusion at the end, how blind. So how to deal in that situation? Because at some point of time, we may be like out of time or like out of resources to make the right decision. So we just need to make a conclusion now. So how to act in such situations?
All life should you prepare to the now. For example, you entering school of troubleshooters. Before you was working in Singapore and Dubai. You know language. You could draw. You could do a lot of different stuff. You, by the way, was creating fancy laser. I know how to say laser stuff.
Leather stuff, yes.
Leather stuff. So everything what you got, like an experience, you have in your backpack. And when it would be time to jump, you just will pull the string and you will have the parachute if it is exist. So if you just sit on the sofa, if you just see the movies, if you just eat, I don't know, like garbage food, you have no chances to be landed somewhere and to build a village and then to build kingdom. You should be playing in your game like in civilization. Do you remember there are several first missions, and you should establish a city, you should make a lot of decisions. If the water would be far away, it would be expensive. If there would be no stones, the building would be almost impossible. So you should think before you will make the move. And when you say out of the time, there is different out of the time. First, I'm already fallen from the 5th floor. Yes, I'm having out of the time, but the result would be my dead end. So nothing to think about. Or for example, tomorrow I should do something. In this case, I have the whole night.
And we, at one of the another podcasts, we actually were talking about self-discovery because, like at certain point of time, if you want to get to the right conclusion, or at least maybe have this on your radar, you need maybe a quiet place or a quiet mood or a quiet time, or maybe even a quiet stage to think about it. So is it the same with the conclusion? Because, for example, for myself, sometimes I do notice when I'm alone, like there is like a dark time, or I'm just like a traveling or in the middle of something, I take pen and paper, observe, look at the skies, and actually I'm starting to think maybe about the scary things that could happen, or maybe about some interesting things that could be achieved and something that I could not even think about in the routine. So what might be the best way, or maybe not best, but more efficient way to come up and think about efficient conclusions?
It's like food cooking. If you will do this for the very first time and you haven't seen how this was done by your ma, grandma, or your neighbor, you could do a terrible mistake. But if you will see how other people do this, you will do this better. So you should you should try as much as possible. And this is the reason why I ask you and other student to write an article. When you do presentation at your work, everyone is have a good attitude and they will простят to sorrow.
Forgive.
Everyone will forgive you some parts. But if you would be compete for the better life, for the better position, for the better country, there would be no forgiveness. Everyone would stand for the horse which would win the race. So to make conclusions, it's also experience, it's amount of attempts. No one could win the competition without wearing the right boots, the right uniform, and to knowing the rules. The more you practice, the better would be results.
And then my last question would be how knowing about conclusion could help to make this world a better place.
You know, a lot of people, they have mindset which contains just facts, and they then could replicate. For example, if you will ask them to cook something or to prepare something, they would do the same as always. But people with creativity sometimes will come to another solution, and it would please everyone. So if you have just закостенелый, like bone-made thinking,
Or rock form, rock.
rock 4, then you will just do the same all again and over again. But if you could come to the conclusion, sometimes you will use knowledge from different fields to create another way to produce, another way to present, another way to sell something, and you will be much successful. If you will make a lot of experiments, you could find a better way. But if you will do this as always, you will have the same result.
Well, the more attempts you do, the wider your arsenal would be. And we reviewed the skill of conclusion and how it could be helpful for you. Stay in peace.